like it's a curse.
I need to get out of this place. I'm not crazy! Whatever I've seen at night, it's real. When you experience something disorienting, close your eyes.
I think we use a wooden stake.
What?
They're vampires, duh.
The house always wins.
Game over.
My name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association, and we're so happy that you guys are joining us today for this second year roundtable talking about Blumhouse's horror franchise. And so last year was a great way to debut, but I tell you, you guys really did knock the ball out of the park with your movies.
Thank you
So
so
without
much.
further absolutely. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick things off, starting with our introduction of our AAFCA members who are participating today, beginning with our facilitator, Katia Woods in Philadelphia, Rhonda Brasha Penrice in Atlanta, Karan Lenore in Virginia, and Nancy Green in Los Angeles. Janita, when she joins, is coming from Indiana, and Tamika is also in Atlanta, just so that you know where everyone is at. So without further ado, I'm going to sign off and let our members do what they do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks, Gil.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, Kathy Woods Cup of Soul Show. So Ryan, my first question is for you. As Latinos, you know we have an obsession, love-hate relationship with the afterlife, right? As kids, we're always told for everything that we're doing is going to ascend us to hell, or our ancestors are going to come back to, to find us for whatever it is, or they're watching over us. How much of that has influenced like this film and just overall like your art? Because it is a huge part of our culture.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the culture where it's not. There's a fine line between being like a horror film where you have a scary ghost and having like a spiritual person or a spirit that visits you and tries to convey either a message or is trying to communicate with family. And this is very much the latter, where it's a ghost story about a woman who's trying to protect someone who's similar to herself. And it was really fun to be able to bring that in and also bring in, just like Mexican spirituality into it as well.
Hi, this is Karan from Karanism.com and Love Music Pleasure Podcast. And my question to any or all of you is, this is one of my favorite times of year. It's autumn, it's around Halloween. This series about horror is so interested in and frightens us with glee, but I want to know what inspires you about horror.
I think we were both like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, Gigi. I'll go after you.
Sure. I think honestly, what inspires me so much, I think it's, when I saw my first horror movie, which, I wasn't allowed to watch any of it. I grew up very Mexican, very Catholic. So it was definitely not allowed in the house that I grew up in. So there was always this like, curiosity on my end. And the first time I saw a horror movie, I actually stole a VHS from Blockbuster when I was like 7 or 8. Well, hold on. Mexicans, we don't steal. We just borrow for a long time. So let me restate that. So I borrowed this VHS from Blockbuster and it was Chucky. It was Child's Play 2. And I remember watching it and not really understanding why I felt so strongly the presence of Chucky in my room. I couldn't understand why that was. And ever since that moment, I love using that so much as inspiration because horror movies can follow you home. And I loved when I was a kid, like I knew he was in the closet. I'm like, no way, he's on the TV and he's right there. And so when I watched The Exorcist after that, I was convinced Linda Blair was under my bed. And, I just love that these types of genre films, they'll follow you all the way to your room. And that's really, really cool. And what's inspiring is that, there's no other type of genre film where you really evoke different emotions out of the audience in a room, in a full audience. It's the only type of movies that you'll get all their reactions. People covering their eyes, people squirming, people cheering like me, yeah, and like you'll get every kind of reaction. So to me, that's really, really fun. That inspires me every time that you can get all their reactions, especially my mom's, which is a nervous laugh as she covers her eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to Gigi in that I grew up in a very Catholic household. My mom was literally telling me that the end of the world was near at all times. And so she's like a doomsday prepper, and she would tell me that demons were outside and ready to attack if I were to let them. And so my imagination would always just go wild. And my dad would let me watch all these movies like Exorcist, Poltergeist. And I was like, oh my God, demons are everywhere. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. But then it became like an adrenaline rush. And then it became like, how did they do that? And so I would watch these movies over and over and over to try to figure out how they did everything that they did. And I became so excited by it that I wanted to become a filmmaker so that I could push the limits and bend reality and get people thinking about what is it that we don't see in the normal world that we can see in the movies. And that's what makes me so excited about making horror films and watching them, because it feels like a roller coaster ride. It feels like you're experiencing what they're experiencing and really exploring death and your deepest fears. And then when you walk out of that movie and you're like, I survived, and you're screaming and you're so excited. That's the type of adrenaline that I love. So that's why I love horror.
Those are fantastic answers. Thank you so much. It's
Thank you.
It exposes a part of our humanity. It's the original dark side, like I like to say, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Nancy Green here with Film Critique. And my question is for everyone. These movies were so great. And so I wanted to know for you, how did you get involved with working with Blumhouse and getting into these films?
This is I've worked with Blumhouse before. I did my feature debut with them. I did my first episodic with them for the Purge TV show. So this was really a blast working again with them. But it was my first time with Amazon. So it was really neat to just have the genre experts of Blumhouse with such an incredible platform like Amazon, who have such a wide audience. It really was such a blessing and such a great opportunity to work with both. Yeah.
For me, I was actually, making horror films has always been a dream of mine. And I'd always wanted to make a feature with Blumhouse. I just can remember from like the first time watching any Blumhouse movie and being like, that is my goal. That is what I want. And so I've been making short horrors and short and anthology horrors with other companies, but like still circling like, oh, I hope I can work with Blumhouse one day. And I was actually pitching another horror film for Amazon, and they didn't end up buying that movie, but they're like, we're looking for directors for this new slate of films. We've got this script that, maybe you'd be interested. It's about vampires. I'm like, what is it? And I read it and I absolutely fell in love with the script. I had never seen anything like it. Not only was it, about a young woman of color, but it was also about slaying vampires. And I just related so much to that character and felt like that could be me. I could be a badass vampire slayer. And so I pitched on the movie, and they luckily loved it. And so within the next week, I was flown to New Orleans to make this movie. So it was really a dream come true, a lifetime of work, and then being swept away into this process of making this movie.
For me, I had Blumhouse brought me in, they sent me the script, and I was very interested in the idea of like true horror, which is, you know, like ghosts and stuff are scary, monsters are scary, but it's the reality of what we do to each other that's like the most terrifying thing for me. And so seeing that, identifying with it, and identifying with Diana, who goes through her own like questioning of where she fits in and the Mexican culture, was something that I really wanted to explore and wanted to give voice to. And I also wanted to bring light to a subject that is really unfortunate and horrifying. And I think that this film definitely brought more awareness to it. And I think that's like the biggest accomplishment for me.
Thank you. Yeah, and I really enjoyed these films, and the thing you said about true horror, that was I actually watched the premiere with the Welcome to the Blumhouse, and that was something that I instantly thought about, that is that it was true horror, and all of these movies, they had something like communal, and so that was something I really liked. Thank you.
Rhonda, I'm curious as to, since a number of you have been fans of horror, what were the things that you most wanted to correct? Not in just adding your culture, but like, you know, I know for me, I'm like, okay, that's not scary. What were some of the adjustments that you guys made, you know, to the scripts, or what did you want to tell that you didn't see before? I know you kind of touched on that, Ryan, but I'm just talking about like connecting to the audience.
Connecting to the what? Sorry.
Audience. Like, you know, were there parts where you're like, this is going, they won't think that doing it this way is scary, but I know that this is going to elicit a response. Because I think that so much, I know in the era that I grew up with, some of the things that were done in horror, they just frankly were not scary to me. Or thought-provoking, or, you know, they just were corny to me. They didn't land.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you expect from a horror film, and people who expect jump scares, and there's nothing, like, I'm not critiquing those in any kind of way. I think, you know, fun jump scares are amazing. I love a film that startles me and does like more traditional or modern traditional horror scares. But with this one specifically, you know, it's different. That's why I'm attracted to it. It takes place in the 70s. It's, you know, a slow burn. It explores like an important message. It explores a story. And with the scares, there were moments that I liked, that I added. The carrot chopping sequence in my film, I thought that, you know, I was trying to find ways to also keep the tension, because there is a story that needs to be told, and it can't be told if every 5 seconds you're like getting startled and scared. So there was a lot of information to unpack in the story, and finding little places to incorporate scares was fun. It was a fun part of the job.
Yeah, I found it interesting as well to kind of craft those moments. You know, the tone of the movie goes from, you know, coming of age drama to comedy to horror, and it explores so many different tones. And so going through all of those kind of roller coaster moments was very interesting, because I had never really done that before, being able to explore those many themes. But being a fan of horror and getting inspired by movies like 30 Days of Night and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you know, 2 movies that are very tonally kind of like a mishmash of this movie, was really fun and very challenging. You know, it was, you know, we shot during COVID and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of my plans and, like, you know, fight sequences that were so much more were like, you know, minimized. But you know what? I got an opportunity to make a movie, and I did the best that I possibly could to express those moments of, you know, and craft those moments of tension. And I'm literally just so lucky to have that opportunity. But those were like my most favorite parts to work on, you know, the opening of the movie and getting to work with the blood and the vampires and the stunts and then crafting their look and getting these amazing contact lenses made that were individually hand painted by this very, very talented artist, and then getting to design the teeth and how they move, and like, you know, that's what was the most fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, for Bingo Hell, I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't trying to make a scary movie. I just wanted a film that was just pure fun. To me, you know, it was also just breaking a lot of the stereotypes of how we've seen our elders as the weak and the old. And I just wanted to make a kick-ass fun film where they kick so much ass at the end of the movie. And that was probably the most fun. And, you know, I'm a big sucker for grindhouse films and things that have slime and blood that just make you laugh. And I just wanted to do that. I just simply wanted, especially because we shot this during COVID, I really wasn't in the mood, to be honest, of making anything that was going to bring me down. I wanted people just to have a good time. And so, you know, the ending of the film in Bingo, that was one of the biggest changes we did where, you know, I'm assuming everybody here watched it. You know, we're just these awesome elders beat the shit out of the villain. Like, when the hell have we seen that before? You know, so really it was just having a blast and being able to give people some sort of escapism with this movie, with still playing genre elements, but not necessarily having to fall into any tropes we've seen many, many, many times. So we just wanted to bring those grindhouse elements of gore and blood and slime and just give people a smile with a genre horror movie. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
So my question to you is, how has the audience feedback been? Jordan Peele said he knew he had a hit when he heard about Chance the Rapper getting up in the middle of the screening of Get Out and screaming at the screen, "Get out!" Like, in other words, like, you know, our community likes to talk back to the screen. We're like the third with the additional cast. So what has the feedback been, you know, from the community as they're watching it? Because again, like I said, is we like to engage with the thing, especially scary movies, as it's happening. Gigi, let's start with you.
It's been really great. I mean, I think definitely, you know, it's been a learning lesson to to not read so many reviews and critics. I think, you know, you make these films for the people, you make these films for yourself. And that's the first thing. You have to be happy with what you made. And I really am. And the reviews, I mean, it's been very divided so far, not that negative. It's, you know, those that got the film got it. It's been really rewarding to see how many people are like, I totally got this, and see that this was really an adult version of a Goosebumps episode or Are You Afraid of the Dark? It was just pure fun with blood and slime. But you know, the best moment out of making this film is I shared online the reaction video of my abuela and her sisters watching the movie, and it exploded on social media, of people watching that reaction of how they're yelling at the screen, "Mátalo, mátalo, pégale, pégale," like in Spanish, of the end of the movie. It's truly the most amazing thing I've experienced in my entire career, and that really was the review I was looking for. So I'm so happy. I'm so excited. And it's been really interesting because I think such a wide platform like Amazon, you get all kinds of people to watch these films. All kinds. So you get all types of reactions too. You know, we the directors, we've discussed before how, you know, you get certain people, certain audiences that think they know what a horror movie should be. that is must fill this box. When it's not necessarily that, what's great about this slate of films, it's they all have something to say, all of them. And some of them can be more dramatic, some more bloody, some more funny, whatever. That we all got to make something so different within the same slate. You don't see that very often. So it's really neat to see underrepresented voices be able to make movies for such a wide platform and make them genre. So, at such a great time of the year. So I'm stoked. Yeah.
They've same thing with as Gigi, very positive reviews and then negative reviews. It's a polarizing movie, honestly. The critics have been really kind. And then I see a lot of international feedback from audience from, across the seas, who've been calling it, racist against white people, woke BS. and then, local Americans who are saying, thank you for telling a story about a dark-skinned young woman. I completely understand her, and thank you for telling that story. And so it's been such a roller coaster ride for me because, I have a great desire to please and to make a movie that really excites people. But then when I see that there are audience members who call it woke BS, or some people don't even like that we're talking about colorism, it's like, why not? We should be talking about this. We should be in the mindset that we've never seen before. This is the reason that I wanted to see this movie and to make this movie, because there's never been a movie like it before. I was putting the pitch together for this movie and I was like, okay, I need to cut together footage for it. I need, a young Black woman slaying vampires or doing anything of any horror films. There was nothing. It doesn't exist. And so for it to come out and to get these very charged, polarizing reviews was at first disappointing and hurtful, but then also, you know what? This had to be made. And it's going to challenge your views and your feelings and it's going to challenge the world. And that was the point of it all. And so I look at it as more like everything that I've wanted to do as a filmmaker, to create stories and lift the underrepresented. That was my goal, and I delivered that. And all I can do is make movies that deliver that message and fulfill that purpose. And I'm happy to have this opportunity and tell Sherman's amazing story. So, yeah.
I mean, those are all the same sentiments that I have. There's definitely an interesting response that you get from gatekeepers that want to tell you that what you're doing is not horror. And it's strange because all of these films are so original, and at that it's like, why wouldn't you celebrate having seen nothing like this before? And I think, being in a space where you create something that hasn't really been seen before, you have a divisive audience, it's a divisive thing to do. And the thing that I have found the most rewarding is having people connect with different aspects of the film that, I know the writers put themselves into, I definitely put myself into, and having people identify with, not fitting in their culture, or having different moments where you don't feel seen, or there's the Spanish issue. There's all these true moments that I think help people feel seen. And so it doesn't really there's definitely negative reviews of the film, but that's if you don't have to watch it. This is not for you. You can, the people who want to watch it have found it and they like it, and I hope more people do. And I'm really happy with that response.
Hi, I'm Jonita Davis from the Black Cape. Ryan, I wrote about your movie, Madres, about how it forced you to be concerned about reproductive rights. I mean, you had no choice. And I felt like all of your movies did the same thing. My question is, has horror become our vehicle for forcing the masses and even the gatekeepers of the world to be concerned? I mean, we tried, all kinds of other ways, but it seems like within these horror films, Have we found another vehicle, another tool maybe to get our issues across? I know Marie, you kind of answered this a little bit, but if all of you could answer. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite criticisms is that my film should have been like a drama or a documentary. And the documentary thing is very interesting because the writers who wrote the film based it off of a documentary, and nobody saw that. And so all these people that are like writing about that, like didn't even Google search, like, is there something like a documentary about this? And so, could it have been those things? Yeah, definitely. But it's not. And the reason why we're talking about it, the reason why we have this platform, the reason why people know about this issue is because it's a horror film, because Blumhouse made it, because it's on Amazon. And I think, there's no better vehicle for it.
I agree. I mean, so many people watch horror films, good ones, bad ones, funny ones. People come out because it is fun and it just transports you to another world. And so I think this is the best vehicle for it right now. I mean, especially for myself in that I love horror. And so being able to talk about things that are important and matter to me, as well as, stretch my artistic kind of endeavors in creating vampires and crafting scares and all that. That just combines everything that I love about making movies and going to the movies. So, and then also, another vehicle would be difficult to land internationally because everybody understands fear. Comedy and things like that are very, very hard to translate in different languages because our comedy is based so much, depending on your community and where you're from and the delivery of it. And, there's a language barrier. But when you are exploring life and death and you see a scary image and you feel that the person is terrified, that message goes very far. And so I think horror is a great vehicle for our messages and also these types of movies.
Yeah, it's been said. I think they said it perfectly. And I mean, also, honestly, like, we see so much already on the news and social media that as a filmmaker, I don't want people to suffer another 90 minutes. I think we see enough out there. So, why not let them escape and make them have fun? At the end of the day, if your movie makes people talk, you did your job as a filmmaker. I couldn't agree with the comment earlier, when you brought up Jordan Peele, like, he really bended and explored all the things to be said with his film Get Out, as well as, what we did with our films, whether we put vampires or monsters or ghosts into it, which, for some people they exist, some don't. But the fact that we can totally bend and mold and make our own way with these genre films and still talk very clearly about, social issues, then we're doing our job. As long as the message is clear, put some entertainment into it. I think people deserve it. We all deserve to just have a good time at the movies, right? So I wouldn't want them to sit through it like they do it in the news. Yeah.
So it's Karan again, and these stories are absolutely original, and they're diverse, and there's such a wide berth of creativity when it comes to the horror genre. And because you guys have experienced high horror, classic horror, true horror, glam horror, I want to know what actually scares you.
Whoo, people. I'll be honest with you. No, but it's cool. Like, I don't know when I'll have the guts to make a film that plays with the devil and like Ouija boards and demons and even what Ryan did with ghosts. I'm like, can't do it. I'm mortified every time I see what like films that play with exorcisms and things. I'm like, that's real. Like, I'm always that person that is yelling in Spanish, that's real. So that I'm just so scared. I'm so scared. When I directed an episode for the Purge TV show, and we shot at a cemetery. I was so gangster that I went and like took some holy water from the church I brought it to set because I was like, I want to see the boom op's head going like spinning or something, or I don't want to open any portals while we're here. So I got to the set and I was sprinkling holy water everywhere I walked. And people were everyone on the crew was looking at me like she's crazy. And I was like, listen, I'ma bless my little pathways and you go ahead and have fun. Like I was like, fine, I'm not gonna share my holy water with you. But I was just like sprinkling it, being like, I'm sorry we're here. Sorry we're stepping over you. I'm just gonna sit right here. And I was like just sprinkling everywhere. So one day, hopefully, I won't be as scared as of the supernatural and the unexplained, but don't even get me. When I heard Marie wants to see ghosts, I officially said we can't hang out. So, so maybe one day I'll have the guts, but for now, no.
Okay, I want to see ghosts, but I don't want to see demons. There's a big difference. Like if I want to see my grandma or my grandpa or something like that, like that's what I want to see. But in terms of the scary stuff, same. Like I can watch like Exorcist and those types of movies, but they give me nightmares for weeks. Like weeks. I cannot sleep. I can't get it out of my head.
Girl.
So I will watch them even though they scare the heck out of me, but I don't think I could ever make like a demonic exorcist type of movie because that is way too much time for my brain to be sitting in that. That's just darkness that I can't stand.
Agreed.
So yeah, it's real for me growing up in a very Catholic home where like demons are real. So I can't be surrounded by it, but I will watch it for like an hour and a half and then that's it.
I think mine, similar to Gigi's first answer, was just humans. I think when people treat each other as objects or inhuman, and just the film explores it. I've experienced it being Mexican American in border town. Like you just see the inhumane treatment of our fellow people, and that's terrifying to me.
Thank you so much. Those are really fun answers. Thank you.
Well, one day you and me, Marie, we'll make a demon movie, but together.
Yeah. So we don't have to be sitting it for too long. We can take turns and then just like get really scared, run away. You shoot, then I'll go back. Yes.
100%. And in the contract, it has to say a priest must be on set.
Oh,
that's the only way. Of course. Sorry, I interrupted someone.
No, that's so much fun. Nancy here again. And so I had some kind of leftover questions about each of the movies, Bingo Hell, Black is Night, Madres. And I was wondering, will they be explored further, like those topics be explored further in other projects? Especially you were talking earlier about the social issues. And I felt like there were some ways that it could be explored more. And I know with Gigi, you've worked on Purge, and I've seen other things that you've worked on. So I was kind of wondering if that was something that was in the works for all of you.
Are you talking about just social commentary in general, or the themes within our films?
The projects themselves, because like especially with like Black is Night, I was wondering about, what the history was of the lead vampire and what other commentary could go into that, like in a television show. Same thing with Madres, because that's a topic, especially that's been in the Black community as well, sterilization, genetic experimentation, that sort of thing. And with Bingo Hell, I was actually really curious about where Mr. Big came from and the history of that. So, I wanted to know more about those things, and I just wondered if there would be future projects, whether television or additional movies.
Thank you so much for a great question. I hope so. We have had a lot of interest in, doing a second part with Pedro's story and kind of continuing it that way. But I've also had a lot of interest in exploring Babineau's history, which would be amazing. It would be a lot more expensive because it goes back into history, and it's a very way more expensive story than I think that would, for this budget range. But I would love to do that, and that would just be a conversation with Sherman, who's, the writer creator of this movie, and see what his availability is. Cause I know he's currently writing like 4 movies right now and that are about to go into production. And, but yes, that would be amazing to continue this conversation, because I do feel like it's very much a cliffhanger and there's so much more to explore on it, and a conversation that needs to continue. Yeah.
I've gotten the most hilarious tweets from fans being like, we need the prequel to Lupita and Dolores's backstory. That's been really fun to see people wanting to see those 2 awesome leads, where they came from when they were younger. What was it like? How did they kick out the gangs of Oak Springs? Like, that's been really, really fun. And even just our villain has gotten a lot of attention online, with Richard Brake playing Mr. Big. People just want it more. I like how you said that you wanted to know more of where he came from and all that. And it was a purposeful choice of mine to keep him so mysterious and just a bit unexplained. I wanted people's interpretation to happen for this character. Basically, at the end of the day, Mr. Big, he just represents, like, he's just the metaphor and the manifestation of greed and gentrification, of just that symbolism of getting rid of the old ways, old traditions, anything that's from the past, erasing the past. And we thought it would be really interesting through a character that is so manipulative, so charming, that, you fall for it. Just like the nearest car salesman, you'll go and buy that car because they're super convincing. So we wanted somebody really fun, but we haven't thought about expanding it further. But I think that would be really neat. Yeah, that's that.
I don't think I'll do another, I mean, never say never, but I don't know that I'll do another forced sterilization film. I think that that's a subject it's still happening. It's not like it's like in the past. And unfortunately, it's news to a lot of people. I think those women deserve a chance to be heard, and hopefully the film will generate interest enough to watch the documentary. I think it's called No Mas Bebés, or you could just read about the issue. It's not just women of color, it's women with disabilities. It's a real problem. But I do want to continue to explore in everything that I do some of the conversations that are started in the film with the culture. I like to explore the nuance in the culture, and I don't think that oftentimes films that have as wide of a distribution get a chance to do that and to talk about what it means to be a hyphenated American, what it means to be a minority in this country. And I'm very interested in exploring all of that.
Well, continuing on what Ryan said, I was just curious as to, when did each of you decide to be a filmmaker, and, who inspired you, and how did you and what kept you going?
I was an actress starting, as a small child, and as I grew up, I really pursued it as a real profession and kept getting cast in roles such as the geisha or the nail technician or the masseuse who could not speak English. And having a whole, lifetime before that, training to be a serious actress, but not being able to play any roles that had any depth, I was like, it's because those don't exist. And so it inspired me to go to USC to write, produce, direct movies and television that would star protagonists of color. And so everything I've done in my career was to get here and to continue that. And so that's kind of how I got into this. It's really just a continuation of my dreams coming true, and being able to lift stories and really just tell stories that have never been told before, and create stories that that people can empathize and understand, people of all colors, especially people that have not been represented on the screen. And so yeah, it's really a dream come true to be able to be a part of this slate, and then also continue to do that with all of my work.
The moment I wanted to be a filmmaker, I totally have the story for that. Um, I started out as an actor as well. I still am, but I definitely was all about musical theater, and I wanted to be the next Broadway star. Like, I was all about theater. So I wasn't really thinking about filmmaking just yet. At the time, as a young teen, uh, I was just doing small commercials here and there for TV, and I thought it was so cool, all the crew and all that, and all the glam of it all. But I never really. I was really immature. I was like, guys, I'm the reason why my parents stopped having kids. Like, my sister was perfect, and then they're like, all right, great, let's do it again. And then I was born. They're like, that's it. So I was a huge brat. I was super mature. And I was really just watching movies for fun. Like, I could quote every Adam Sandler film out there and every horror movie. I was that kid. I was that teen. And so one day, I knew my sister was going on a date with some guy, and me being me, I wanted to ruin the experience. So I called up all my friends, and I'm like, yo, I know what movie theater they're going, and I know what movie. Let's go and crash the date. So I gathered all my friends. I was 16. And little did I know that the movie that my sister went to go see on her date was Children of Men. Masterpiece. And I had, by that age, I'd never by that age seen anything like it. Nothing. I was so just about comedies and horror movies. That was it. And some Pixar films. And when I saw Children of Men, I was like, oh, I was so impacted by this film. I had no idea coming out of a movie I could feel so, not just depressed, but like so. I feel like I just got such a big wake up call on our society, on the world, and how close we are to something so horrific as that. And it woke me up. And what happened was, the guy that she went on a date with was a film student. And he saw how impacted I was. Of course, my sister was pissed off, but he saw how this movie just left my jaw like, "Ugh." And he said to me, well, I'm learning how to make movies like this in school. I was like, you're learning about movies in school? And he was like, yeah, it's called film school. I'm like, what? Like, I just like, "Wah!" Like, it was like the most coolest moment of my life. And I remember how he said, and by the way, did you know that this director is Mexican? You should know him and his other friends like Guillermo del Toro and Inarritu. Yeah, this Cuarón guy is really good. And I was like, he's Mexican? I was like people like me made that movie? It was revolutionary. I'd never thought something could literally change my life, my opinion. I went home, dropped my bag, and I was like, Mama, Papa, I'm going to film school. They're like, but what about your ballet and your hockey? I'm like, no, I'm going to film school. And I just started watching all kinds of movies from that point on. I suddenly discovered Amores Perros y Tu Mamá También and all these movies. I'm like, my God, Mexicans are crazy. And I just kind of found my way and got so into Robert Rodriguez and his Tex-Mex style because at that age I had just moved from Mexico to Canada. So I felt very divided in the two cultures. So, discovering somebody like him that was very Spanglish in his movies was awesome. That was a long story, but like that really was the moment of like, when did you want to be a filmmaker? That's all. Yeah, I'll pass on the mic. Yeah.
So the way that my family gets together is we all, we don't do a ton of talking. What we do is we watch something together. And so whether it's around food, whatever, we always like put something on. And I think, in my personal situation, there's been difficulties in my childhood, but like we never really address them. And like there's never like an expression of emotion. But when we put on a movie and it makes you think, it makes you emotional, like I see, people who never show any emotion start to get teary-eyed and cry. And that to me was like the most powerful thing, is seeing these like important figures in my life start to get emotional and share over an experience that unites us. And I was fortunate where I had an uncle, like I'm from El Paso. There's like, at the time, there was like nobody that was making film. I had an uncle who, he and his friends, he's kind of like my older brother. They would make these like no budget films. And so from the age of like 8, I was like on his set up until I graduated high school. I just did, all my spare time was spent making these films and being like every crew position that they didn't want, which was pretty much everything. And so it just made me fall in love with it, the process, what it can do, what it can mean to people. And ever since I've been pursuing this.
Thank you guys. Those were amazing.
Thank you so much for your time today. Your wonderful sophomore class, and you've done Blumhouse well. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film critics, again, we thank you for your time. And to our audience, we thank you for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
This has been great.
Bye.